Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Art Money Success Podcast. I am your hostess, Maria Brophy, and tonight you are joining me in my meditation room. I've got a little glass of wine, and I wanted to talk to you tonight about why 90%, 90% of the artists who try to start an art business fail. Now, I'm also going to talk to you about the artists that succeed and what they all have in common and what they figured out. And for those of you who don't know, I have been in the art business for well over 20 years, probably closer to like 23, 24 years. But I don't want to age myself. And I've learned a lot of this stuff the hard way. I've learned when I quit my very good job in the insurance industry many, many moons ago that you have to figure out how to work smarter, not harder, if you want to make it in the art business. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that the art business is not for everyone because really, when you want to be an artist and you want to make a living out of it, there's a couple things that you absolutely have to do if you're going to succeed. Number one is you have to surrender to the idea that you are now going into business. You're not going to have this romantic, airy fairy life where you've got all these managers and agents running everything for you, and all you have to do is just show up to the studio and throw some paint on and just have this Van Gogh life without the drama. It doesn't work that way. Wouldn't it be great if it did? But it doesn't. Even musicians have to bust their butts. Sure, it looks like they're having fun, but they work really hard. I have a lot of friends that are professional musicians, and I know that they really bust their butts when they go on tour. Sure, they're having fun. Like my good friends that are in Tunnel Vision, and another good friend of mine, David Electric, who is in Steel Pulse, and then another one of my really good girlfriends, Beebs Money. She has to tour sometimes, and it is exciting and interesting, but you're also working pretty hard because you have to get the jobs, you have to make the music, you have to meet the fans, and you got to put in the time. But one thing musicians know that a lot of visual artists don't know is this, that if you just make a song and you sell it to one person, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to think in terms of volume with your artwork. You have to think in terms of working smarter, not harder. So, for example, you create a painting and it's one of your really good paintings and you love it and everybody loves it. When you sell that painting, you want to make sure you capture a high res image of it so that you can do other things with it. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So let me back up a little bit. I started out with saying that 90% of the artists that try to go into business for themselves fail. And then I stated that the artists that are successful in art, they do a lot of similar things in common. So I'm gonna talk about those things. Okay. I'm going to talk about I'm going to talk about what I know best, and that is what my husband Drew Brophy and I have done for over 20 years to be able to support our family of four. Now we're back to a family of two, and be able to support our family at the beach while we traveled all over the world. And which, by the way, Drew and I still do a lot of traveling. So I'm going to go back 20 years to when we started with zero, where I left my job in the insurance industry to work with my husband, Drew, full time. Now, at the time, Drew was making money as an artist. He was painting surfboards and doing illustrations for t shirts and wakeboards and skateboards. And he was doing okay, but he was a young guy. He was in his late 20s and he just got paid. He like somebody would hire him to do a design for a t shirt. So he would get paid, back then, like, wow, like $200 to do a t-shirt design. And one thing that he did that was very smart was he signed his name to everything. So when he painted surfboards, he would sign his name to it. Now, before Drew started painting surfboards, literally nobody ever signed their name if they were a surfboard painter. So you would see beautiful surfboards in surf shops and you wouldn't know who painted them. So Drew knew to put his name on everything. And that got him some street cred because the surfboards that he painted were sent out all over the world. He also was doing designs for wakeboards and skateboards, and he insisted that his name went on everything. Now, even though he was young and he wasn't getting paid very much for these things back then, it was really smart because he started building up a name for himself. People started to say, who's this Drew guy? See his name on surfboards and skateboards, t-shirts. People started noticing and wanting to see more about his art and learn more about him. So I had quit my job so that I could work with him full time. And he really wasn't making enough money to replace my income at the time. And so that was my job, was to figure out, okay, how do we take this art that he's doing that really appeals to actions? People are into action sports. How do we do that? And how do we increase sales? Now, he could only paint so much. So we had to get smart and figure out how to get mileage out of the paintings he was already doing. And over the years, we came up with this brilliant business model. And I say brilliant because we are still making money off of art that he did 20 years ago. And it's, I talk about it all the time because I want other artists to benefit from what we've learned. And I talk about it all the time because I love artists. I love the business of art. It's the one thing I'm good at. And so I love talking about it. And if I could help just a couple artists take their income from one level and make a couple giant jumps, then I feel good about what I'm doing. So let's see. I don't have a script for what I'm talking about tonight, so I'm just kind of going off of my intuition and what I think people want to hear. So going back to the late 90s, and what Drew and I started to discover was we could take some of the art that he had done for clients and we could resell that art through licensing. And we could use the same art images over and over again with different clients for different products. And so we would just keep getting paid again and again and again. So it's great because what ended up happening was we developed this business model that's freaking awesome. And I'll tell you what it is. Essentially, and this works great for illustrators and for artists who have a lot of people asking them for commissions, to do commissions, right? Because people are, if you have a distinctive style, people are going to come to you for commissioned work, right? Because they see your work on Instagram and they're like, oh, I love this person's art. I want them to do something just for me. So here's what we do. Um, so someone comes to Drew and says, "Hey, love your art. I love what you did with this other company or whatever. I want you to create something just for me, and something capture my vision of like my favorite surf spot, right?" And then then we say, okay, so we're going to do this painting, and they want to hang this painting up. So we give them a price for, let's say, a 36-inch by 24-inch painting. And let's say it's a $4,000 painting. If the artwork lends itself to being reproduced, like after it's done, Drew and I will look at it and we'll go, oh, wow, this would make a great t-shirt, or this would make great prints, or, there's many, a Sherpa blanket, right? So after we give the customer their commission, they get their painting, they pay for it. Then we take that art and we can make blankets out of it. We make t-shirts out of it. And hey, we might do a deal with a company. Like right now, we're talking to a company about doing men's underwear. Might end up on underwear. I know that sounds weird, but it's actually cool. It's like super cool underwear, like the kind of underwear you would buy somebody as a gift. But there's socks, there's coffee mugs, there's countless things that you can print art on. So that has become our business model. And I'm going to give an example of something that Drew did 20 years ago. And by the way, before I go into that, I just want to say this podcast is being broadcast live. And I want to invite everyone who is on here live with me right now to ask questions or leave me a comment. And I'm happy to answer your questions. And I'll just read one comment. Paulo, a safe said, "I've read your book. It was very helpful. Thank you so much. Greetings from Brazil." Well, thank you, Paulo. I am so flattered that people in Brazil are reading my book. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you being on here live with me right now. And again, I invite you to ask any question in the comments, and I am happy to answer. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of artwork that Drew did over 20 years ago for a wakeboard company called Liquid Force. Now, Liquid Force is probably the best wakeboard company in the world now. And I think back then in the late 90s, they were up and coming, or maybe they were around for a while. I don't know. But anyway, it was a great thing for Drew. Like, he was very honored that they wanted his art on their new series of wakeboards called The Trip. And the artwork he did for it was super trippy. And it turned out to be like one of their best-selling wakeboard ever. And the artwork is super cool. Now, Drew did the artwork as an original painting. And then they got a high-res shot of it. And so Liquid Force got the digital image of it so that they could print it on their wakeboards. And then Drew kept the original painting and then sold that later. Well, here it is 20 years later. And a year ago, Liquid Force came to us and said, "Hey, we want to do a collaboration with Drew Brophy, with the Trip artwork, with a beer company, Altamont Brewery." And so it was like a 20-year anniversary bringing back the Trip artwork. And Altamont Brewery is a beer company, and they printed the art on beer cans, and they printed it on different kinds of merchandise. And of course, we got paid for that. So that is an example of something you can do art for and years later still make money off of it. So here's a good question that Tio asked, and the question is, after he, wait a minute, let me see, my poor eyes. Hold on, I'm trying to read it. Bear with me. I need my granny glasses to look at this on the screen. After Drew sells his art physically, how do you keep his image? JPEG and what size? So this is a really good question. And I love this question because artists always ask it. Every single painting that Drew does, we get a high res digital image of it. Super high res. And I'll tell you, we hire a photographer to do it because I don't want to deal with that. I want to make sure it's a really good image so that we can blow it up as big as we want if we ever need to. I'm going to give you an example of when we needed to blow something up really huge and we got paid really well for it. Okay. A few years ago, there was a new water park opening up in one of the Western states in Nevada, and they wanted something very surfy to be printed on a giant wall. When I say giant, like a 60-foot wall, 60 feet wide. And so they chose one of Drew's most popular images that he painted in 2006. And they paid us for the rights to print that image on a large format printer and put it on this wall outside as like a photo op for people who attend the park. So that's an example of I mean, gosh, there are so many things you can do with art. Another thing that we license Drew's art out for often is for wraps on automobiles, on vans, on cars, on boats. So if it's just a person, like not a company, but a person that comes to us and says, hey, I want to wrap Drew's art on my van. How much is it going to cost? Well, if it's existing art, I charge $800. So they send me $800. I send them the high res file, and then they actually I don't send it to them. I send it to their printer. I send it directly to their printer with specific language that they can only use it for one-time use. And then they get to print it on an automobile wrap. All right, I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to take a sip of my wine. Hang on. I'm drinking my favorite wine, J-Lore. Okay, here's another question from Paulo. And Paulo's question is, I am starting my real artist career doing live paintings at weddings to earn money. Couples are really appreciating it. What do you think about this niche and what could be a differential in it? Okay, Paulo, this is a great niche. I talk about live painting all the time. That's one of our little side services. Drew gets hired out to go do live paintings at events. And we only do like high-end events. But to answer your question, what do I think of it? And how can you differentiate yourself? Well, there's a couple different ways you can differentiate yourself. You can specialize in something specific. For Drew, he specialized in surf art and painting on surfboards only. That's what he does. So if you want somebody to come and paint a canvas, Drew's not going to do that. He specializes in painting surfboards. And what's great about that is it's very searchable online. It's very niche. And surfboards are expensive. Okay. So the people who hire us, they know they need to pay. Like our starting price for Drew to go out and do a live surfboard painting is $6,500. So not everybody's going to pay that. And our niche is to only work with clients who want a premium experience. So if they want something economical, we're not a fit for them. Okay. So Paulo, you could decide to specialize in something in particular. I don't know what that is. Maybe look in your heart and see what you're passionate about. And you could also decide to specialize in luxury events only, or you could decide to specialize in economical events or just your everyday average wedding. So, your price point, boy, I'm all over the place with this one today, aren't I? Your price point really needs to be in alignment with where you are comfortable. So, while a lot of people dream of being in the luxury market, a lot of people are not comfortable in the luxury market because to be in that market, you have to be comfortable around those people. You have to be comfortable with the prices you're going to charge. You have to be comfortable with putting a lot of money out to get in that market, to paying for the best materials. So when we go do an event, we don't just buy some cheap surfboard. We usually have the surfboard custom shaped, color lamination, like it's like a Ferrari, not a Hyundai. So you have to be comfortable with putting a lot of money out. You also, a lot of people have to work up to it too. So if you are brand new, just learning your craft, sometimes you have to start in a beginner market. Okay, so let's see. We have another question here from Matt Turney. Do you have to make a deal with the collector to then later license the art to a company or sell your own merchandise? Is that mentioned in the estimate or invoice? Okay, so going back to the earlier topic of art licensing and taking the artwork that a client might commission you to do. So, Matt, that's a great question. And we make sure that because this is our business model, key phrase, business model, we let people know, look, this is our business model. We keep ownership to all the copyrights. We keep rights to all reproductions. You get the rights to hang the piece of art on your wall. We keep all other rights. So, yeah, we do make it clear. I mean, I don't have a huge conversation with them about it. This is really the reality is anybody that goes into a gallery and they buy a painting, they have no rights to that artwork other than the physical painting that they get to hang on the wall. They cannot use that art for anything legally, not in the United States. Okay. And this rule also applies in a lot of other countries. So as an example, if you're watching this, now some of you are listening to this on my podcast, but if you're watching this, there's a painting on the wall behind me, beautiful painting from an artist that I bought. And this was, her name's Nancy Mills. And I love this painting because there's an angel hidden in it. And I was coaching her when I saw this painting in her room behind her. And I said, I want to buy that painting. And she shipped it to me. I bought it and I got it framed. Well, anyway, back to the point of Nancy Mills' painting behind me is that I love this painting, but I can't do anything with the artwork other than enjoy it on my wall. When I write my next book, if I want that painting to be the cover of my book, I have to go to Nancy Mills and say, Nancy, I want to buy the rights, the temporary rights to be able to print your art on my book cover. So that's how it works. And I have found that, most of my collectors, I say my collectors, Drew's collectors, because I'm not the artist. My husband, Drew, is the artist, but I'm the one who deals with the collectors. I talk to them and I find that they love seeing the art on things out in the marketplace. It makes them happy. So every now and again, you might have a collector that doesn't like that they might be bothered by it. And if that's the case, um, maybe you need to learn to communicate a little better or make it a little more clear, or just let your collector know, look, this is my business model. And no one's ever going to argue with your business model. So I'm going to go back to what I started talking about, and that is why 90% of the artists that go into business fail. And that is because they are not thinking long term. They are not looking at themselves as a business owner, and they aren't making their own rules. So I want to encourage you all to make your own rules, to set your own business model, and to let your customers, clients, fans, and buyers know what your rules are and know what your business model is, because it's your business. And I hope that this conversation really helps some people out there. And again, I'd like to invite you to ask some questions before I wrap it up. I'd like a few more questions if you have any. There's so many rabbit holes we can go down with the business of art, and I want to go down every single one of those rabbit holes. If you don't already have it, get my book called Art, Money, Success. And in that book, it covers a lot of this stuff. And really, that book originally was over 600 pages, and I had to get it down to under, it's around 350 pages because there's so much to talk about. But one thing I really want all artists to understand is your art is your business. And because it's your business, you make the rules. Okay. All right. I have another one question here from my buddy, Alan Moore. Hi, Alan. Good to see you. Alan says, this is cool. How do you get the comments up on the screen? Is that a YouTube thing or your own app? Well, it's a secret, but I'll tell you, it's not really a secret. I use StreamYard. It's a great program. I pay $25 a month for it, and it's amazing. It's how I can go live on multiple platforms at once, and the comments pop up. So that's how I'm able to do it. And it's worth that $25 a month, I'll tell you, because it's really solved a lot of problems for me and made it easier for me to do podcasts and videos. So let's see. I'm going to have to boot somebody out of here. How do you do that? I don't know. That's something I'm going to have to. This person. Okay. Whoever 69 Girls XYZ, get the hell out of here. You're not invited, and it's the wrong crowd. Okay. So thanks, Alan. And thank you, everybody, for being here with me. I appreciate you. You give me a reason. Give me a reason for living. I'm not kidding. This is my purpose in life, to share everything I learned the hard way with all the artists that I love out there and the artists that love me back. And I'll see you next time. Oh, one last thing. Hit subscribe, sign up for my newsletter, and the name of my podcast, thank you, Paula, for asking. The name of my podcast is Art, Money, Success, and you can find it on all the podcast platforms. All you have to do is search Art, Money, Success and put my name in there, and you'll find it. Okay, so a couple more questions popped up. So I'm going to just stick around because I still have some wine left in this glass. Jennifer Phillips wants to know, how do I know if my art is right for licensing? Well, I love this question, and I have an answer for you. And my answer is, there's a few ways you know if your art is right for licensing. One, if a lot of people like your art. Two, if your art would look good on a lot of different products. And you know if it would or not, right? Some art just doesn't work with a lot of different products, and some art does. So play around with the art, see how it looks on t-shirts and coffee mugs and book covers and socks and all the things. I mean, there's a million things you can print art on. And that's how you know. I mean, beer cans, wine labels. I mean, there's the list is endless. Okay. Hugo Rock. I can be a moderator if you want. Oh, Hugo, I love you. And you know, Hugo and I go way back to early days of COVID when I was doing Zoom painting things with my hubby. And Hugo, I just love that you're always sticking around. You just always encourage me, and I love that and I appreciate it. Okay, let's see. Oh, we're getting some really good questions in here. Okay, Catherine. Catherine's got a good question here. Put on my granny glasses again. Let's see. I'm the artist from your Instagram post. Would love your input regarding how to price a design for a vinyl mural for a restaurant. Okay, so if I were trying to price a vinyl mural for a restaurant for my hubby Drew, first of all, I would look at the restaurant. Is it a restaurant chain? If yes, that puts them in a higher cost bracket. Okay. Or is it a mom and pop restaurant? It's just a small restaurant owned by, a family or, a local entrepreneur. If the answer is yes, then I'm going to go with a lower price point. So let's talk about the lower price point. There's a lot of different pricing models you can use. Okay. So I'm going to give you one that I use most often. I will determine the price. Now, wait a minute, I'm going to back up for a second. Assuming they're using existing art you've already created. Okay. You're not doing something new for them. It's art you've already created and you're just going to blow it up. Blow it up huge to make a big mural on the wall. So what I would do is I would take the price of that. I don't know how you price your art, okay, but from Drew, so I'll just use Drew as an example. So when I look at like some of Drew's artworks that we've reproduced into a very large format, like let's say, I'm trying to think of his biggest, like we recently did a 60-inch by 60-inch reproduction on canvas. So we sold that for $3,700 framed. Okay. So if we were going to print it bigger, I would probably, looking at the price of the cost of printing, and depending on size, you're looking at $4,000 or $5,000. I mean, I'm kind of picking numbers out of the air. There's a lot of details I would need to know to give you an exact number, but that's it in general. That's one way to do it. Okay, let's see. I hope that helps. Oh, and actually there's a second part to that answer. And that is if the art is for a chain of restaurants and they're going to do multiple pieces, then you would charge less per restaurant, but more overall. So, like let's say they have a chain of 6 restaurants. You might charge them, I don't know, like $12,000 for all of them. Okay. Let me see. There's another question in here. Oh, Catherine, wait a minute. Sorry, I'm trying to, whoop. Okay. Bear with me a second. The question is, there may be the opportunity to license this image. Oh, okay. So you answered my question. Catherine said there may be an opportunity to license this image for their other restaurants. Yeah, that would be ideal. And if you can, I prefer to do the printing myself, unless there's a massive installation difficulty with that. But if you can handle working directly with the large format printers and having them do the installation and everything, that's even better for a number of reasons. Okay. And then Catherine says, I priced murals, but I never priced the design and then priced it again. Yeah. So, but here, the bottom line is like when you're doing something that you've never done before, like this, you're doing something new with your art, don't obsess over it too much. Okay. Don't obsess over what to price it at. I mean, do a little research, make sure you get paid adequately, but never lose the deal because you don't know how much to charge, because that's worse than undercharging or overcharging, is losing the deal altogether. I mean, just make sure you get the deal. Hugo says, I love you and Drew so much. Thank you, Hugo. We feel the same about you. All right, here's a good question from Craig. Craig asks, what strategies work best for you and Drew when marketing online sales of prints and merchandise? Well, we are experimenting with advertising right now for Drew's online art prints. And, we have a Shopify website. I love Shopify. When we switched to Shopify a year and a half ago, it was a game changer for us. Literally, our sales went way up. For a number of reasons. And now we're experimenting with advertising. We don't have it totally figured out. It's extremely expensive. So I'm no expert on it. I'll let you know once I have it figured out. Another strategy is just posting a lot on Instagram and Facebook. That seems to get us a lot of sales. So, when they're not hiding all your posts, how Facebook does that. So I hope, all right. So I am going to end this now because a few people are heading out and it's kind of late. My husband is in the kitchen cooking me dinner right now. He's making homemade pot pie without the gluten. So I got to go eat. I'm just so happy that you all joined me here tonight. It's such a blessing for me. I appreciate it. Look for my podcast. Go look for me on YouTube. And I'm putting out a lot of new content. And hey, if you're on a platform where you can leave a comment or a rating, I would love it if you gave me some love and let me know if anything I shared was helpful for you. Thank you all so much. I truly, truly love you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.